we're starting to layer the e-collar into off-leash heeling work. I will say Ophelia's feeling a little timid this morning, so we'll see how much drive we get out of her. It's okay if she's a little flat. I'm going to kind of keep it nice and light. Mainly I just want to talk through the timing and mechanics, just so you have something to refer back to. So I can't remember where we left off on the off-leash e-collar work that I talked about in the other video, but I'm sure it was pretty similar. Same principles of layering in the e-collar as guiding pressure into a behavior. So we're guiding her into that little bubble right next to us in a heel, and we're going to want to have a formal command to that. So I'm going to start on a pretty low level today just because I want to keep her, giving me nice drive and feedback. We're going to be working on leash just because, at least with me, this may be different with you because she's more familiar, but with me, she's not ready for full off-leash heeling work, but good off-leash heeling work comes from good on-leash heeling work. So with her, we still have the leash in the picture to help guide her through moments that are unclear or potentially stressful, or that there's competing motivators in the picture. So, bird, squirrel, whatever wanders by, weird sound happens, something spooks her, and now we have that kind of added feedback that we can give as she really learns the ins and outs of the stimulation of the collar. So jumping right into it, basically there's two pieces that I would start teaching. One is the e-collar piece, and then I'm going to kind of dive into a secondary behavior that you can teach to help clarify what heel position is for her and help her find that on her own. But to start, we're just going to kind of layer it into our leash walking. So I'm basically just going to use that imaginary bubble next to me as a guiding point, so that if she starts to move outside of that position, then I'll just tap, tap, tap on the e-collar to kind of encourage her into that position. If that's not enough to get her to move towards the direction I want, I'm going to layer in the leash for a little clarity. So we'll start following with the leash before I worry about the e-collar. You're following me. Good. We'll start with leash pressure. Make sure she's thinking. Girl. Good. So same idea. Anytime you see me tap with the leash, that's a moment that I can tap with the e-collar as well. So right here, good. We're on level 3, so really just teaching her on the mechanics. Heel. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Good. I'm going to start to fade a little of the leash help. Fade your steps back. Good. And notice the only leash help she got there was kind of right at the end. Heel. Good. No tap here. Not repeating. Heel. Tap, 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 because she's a little behind, and then a little encouragement with the leash to help her understand what the taps are asking. Good. She's a little further away from me than I would like, so next turn I'll adjust that heel. Good. And this is actually kind of a nice setup to help her work through that, because she's looking to the end of the parking lot, looking for a continued walk. So nothing crazy, but just enough to pull her attention. Good. And there I didn't give her any leash help, and she turns with me. So basically, those are your starting points to really teach her the mechanics of how to use the e-collar to prompt her into heel. Heeling's a little bit of a complex behavior just because it's both a position, but it's a position in motion. So it's a position in relation to you, and so it moves with you. And so that can, good girl, that can remove a little clarity from the scenario. And so we can do some work just with our shaping to help her understand more precisely what heel is. We can do that over time with the leash and guidance, but I like to additionally teach my dog to find heel on command. It's a bit more of an advanced level skill, but it falls into like our obedience kind of positions and trick training. So heel again being right next to my left leg. What I'm going to do is I'll start with food lure if I can. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide her in a teardrop shape. I'm going to help her by stepping back with my left foot. So that'll help me guide her beyond my body. Good. And then I'll bring her back forward. And ideally I'd have a sit as well. Sit. Good, right at my side, just so she can find this to be a very rewarding position, rather than just a place I've guided her. So she's going to be a little more tentative with me just because she's a little more sensitive to me having like an arm over her. Good girl. I'm going to use this little bit of, motion to good, to encourage her to find that position. Get it. Without quite so much convincing. Good girl. So you'll notice that there's a couple key pieces of my position, so I'm moving backwards to get that motion from her. I'm swooping my left arm, good girl. I'm swooping my left arm way behind me to give her enough room to turn. I'll show you what it looks like. Get it? If I don't do that. So basically at this phase, that's a rock, good girl. So at this phase, if I were to just try and kind of do it right here, she's going to end up crooked because she doesn't have enough hind end awareness to swing back on her own yet. And so, get it. So we're going to make up for that lack of education that she has there, which is something we can address down the line if we have need to. There's not really anything wrong with teaching her to go behind and move back to you. But it is going to take some specific handling to get that straightness that you want. So a little cheat as well is I can add a couple more steps forward on the tail end if I need to. Oh, good girl. You ready? And now that I'm getting a little bit of a reliable response, I'm going to start layering in that heel before I help her into position. So heel. Here, I'm going to walk a couple steps. Good. Because she didn't want to go all the way behind me. She'll likely have a little more drive with you, so I don't foresee that. Get it? Being a problem, but it is something where I can adjust and set her up for success by just taking those couple extra steps. Ready? Heel. Good. That's actually a nice little fancy walk. So good. So the biggest point that I'm seeing a little bit of challenge is just that willingness to follow the treat. So what I'm actually going to do, part of it may be that she is smart enough to realize that the treat always comes from when she spins back forward. And so a way that I can remedy that kind of like anticipation and lack of follow through, good girl, is I can reward twice. So right here I let her take a treat, and then also right here. Oh, lost it. And so that way she has more commitment to following all the way behind me. So I'll show that. I've got 2 treats in my hand this time. This takes a little getting used to. I kind of put them in a row so that I can just remove my thumb from one and then the other. Girl, heel. So here I'm going to really encourage her past. Yes, let her take the treat. And then I flip. Then I let her take the second. Oh, we need a little more syncing up on that, but we'll do one more rep. And I'll do it, which side would line me in? Do it this way. All right, get it? It's early today. All right. Heels. Treat. Treat. Good girl. And I reset by tossing the treat. So I can also, there's another variety that I can do here. I'll show one more. Ready? Heel. Treat. Treat. Good. So while she's in that sit, I can then turn to face her. Now I'm prepared to do a whole nother rep. Feet, heel. Good. And I like that she's showing intent to add motion. That time I didn't do 2 treats, I just did the one. You can see she's starting to kind of swing out. I'm gonna hold her to that. Good. And it may be that we're moving towards a wall, so she's anticipating that pressure and trying to swing away. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the 2 pieces I'd be building to get a nice off-leash heel, so that if you're out on the trail, you know, have her off leash, you want to call her back and then put her in position. First, you can recall her and you can support with the e-collar as you need, so it can be feet come, and then once she's coming towards you, you can give that heel, and she's learned that flip finish into heel. And then from there, we can maintain that heel with the e-collar, kind of bumping anytime she starts to pop out of that heel position early. and you can reward intermittently with that. So I'll actually demo that whole sequence. It's going to be a lot of luring at this phase because this part is still new for her. Hey, crazy. Girl, girl, over here. Cute. Good. Good. She's trying to switch sides, so all I do there is I can either use the leash or the e-collar to kind of tap her back into position, or I can lower the food. So, you know, long term, that's kind of how these pieces are going to fit together. But for the short term, I'd start practicing them in isolation, and then just kind of playing with combinations of that, and toying with how much food you need, whether you can fade the food out, and start saying heel and seeing if she finds position on her own, and then can be rewarded after. So there's ways to progress on that, and we can chat about that as we go, but that's kind of the short and sweet version of how I'd start layering in off-leash healing.